Welcome, my friends, to the Bob and Brad podcast, produced by Bob and Brad, the two most famous physical therapists on the internet. I am Bob, and I'm exactly one half of the Bob and Brad team. I am joined by my cohort, Mike Keenitz.
Cohort?
Well,
co-host.
Cohort. And anyway, you put together most of the questions for today. We're going to be joined by Mark Cucuzzella MD. And Mike, you want to give some background on Mark?
So Dr. Mark Cucuzzella is a professor at West Virginia University School of Medicine. He's actually a competitive runner for over 30 years, and he has more than 100 marathons and ultra marathon finishes. Mark is also the owner of Two River Treads, a center for natural running and walking in his hometown of Shepherdstown, West Virginia.
And I want to mention, Mike, that he also tells us during the podcast that he was, had surgery 20 years ago to the point where he thought he was done running.
Mm-hmm.
And he has since done many races.
Yeah, he has fixed this through basically barefoot minimal shoe running. And then we also get into talking about heart rate zone training as well.
Fantastic. Can't wait to talk with him.
So enjoy the podcast.
Okay. Welcome to the show, Mark Cucuzzella, Dr. Cucuzzella. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh gosh, my pleasure. And Mark is fine. That's too long a last name
Yeah.
to have to repeat on the
I really like to give you the respect you deserve.
Would you just want to explain to everyone what heart zone training basically is?
Yes, I think, Mike, the best way to think about it is what type of metabolism are you trying to create? It's not specifically to a zone. We'll just talk about, do you want to be burning carbs or do you want to be burning fat? So a good athlete should be metabolically flexible. Like you've got like a Prius engine, right? You've got an electric battery that can go really highly efficient. If you need to pound up a hill, you can switch to gas. So we want to build that electric battery, that big, like Tesla engine, clean burning engine that can run all day. You want to build that. So to build that, you have to be what's called fully aerobic, meaning using fat as your main substrate for fuel. So fat takes a little more oxygen than the carbohydrates. So when you need to go up a hill and you need to kind of burn matches quicker, you always shift to glucose. And the way you can sense this even without a heart rate monitor, right? You're jogging along and maybe we're out on a run right now and we're chatting, gossiping, talking about whatever. And then all of a sudden someone tightens the screws, right? And then your respiratory rate kicks up. So when we're burning carbohydrates, we're creating more CO2, and which creates the necessity to breathe quicker, right?
Gotcha.
So when we're burning fat, we're not producing as much CO2, so we don't need to come up for air as much. And so you want to be in that area. Now, for most people, that's a heart rate of somewhere around 180 minus your age. So for example, if you're 40 years old, it's not precise. This is just a poor man's tool to keep you in that zone, would be about 140. Above that, you're probably shifting into more carbohydrate adaptation. So the more you're in that fat burning zone, the more your body's asking for more oxygen, the more it's going to deliver that, which means it's going to start to develop more capillaries. Right. So we're building a bigger engine, right? So we want to build a big aerobic base. And that big aerobic base just comes from a lot of easy running. A lot of easy running builds that, a marathon is 99% aerobic.
Mm-hmm.
A mile and a half military PT test is like 85 to 90% aerobic. So if you want to pass the PT test in the military, you need to have a big aerobic base and then add some, icing on the cake by getting sharp and doing some quicker stuff. But you have to have that big aerobic base. So the more you're doing training in that zone, and that zone doesn't break you down, right? You can wake up the next day. Fat burning is clean. It's like a Tesla versus a charger.
It's very easy because I'm in my early 30s, but I was in my 20s. I ran 3 marathons. I never knew a thing about this. I just ran as hard as I can.
Just pounded.
And I'd start, 7.5 minute miles. And then by the time I'm done, I'm at like 10.5 minute miles.
Done.
And every marathon I was exhausted. And this time I'm in the middle of training, and like these 18, 20 mile runs I've been doing with lower heart rate zone, I'm done. I'm a little tired, but I'm fine.
Yeah, you feel great. Plus, if you do those mostly fasted, and you
Yeah, that's
train
what
your
I
body
do.
to use the fat, for
Yeah.
fuel, is you never bonk. It's a magical place, and you're never afraid of bonking because you'll never bonk. You become basically bonk proof because you build
Yeah.
a
I used
fat
to
burning
have
engine.
that 20-mile bonk pretty much every time. And I used to eat a huge carb meal. Now, yeah, I go out fasted every time. Just
Yeah,
take some
get some
salt with
salt.
me and some
Yeah,
water.
yeah,
Yeah.
look, yeah, spot on. Yeah, you need the salt, but you don't need. I'd never eat before runs, no matter. Maybe if it's like like an ultra run, something that's going to be 4 to 6 hours on feet, because
Hmm.
you get hungry for a meal somewhere along the way, but otherwise, just go run.
Well, for someone who doesn't know anything about this, I mean, so on race day, do you do anything different?
No, no, the worst thing you could do on race day. So if you're teaching your body to use fat as fuel, and if you say, go to the expo and someone says, well, you want to load up your sugar right before the start. So when insulin is high, we're storing, we can't access fat for fuel. So if I ate a bagel right before my run, my insulin would shoot up. So basically, I'm destined to burn that bagel, but I shut off the Tesla battery, right? I just shut that
Gotcha.
off because I just spiked my insulin. But if I start that run fasted, my insulin's low, so I'm using the Tesla battery right from the start. Now, once you get moving, about a half hour in, you're using that fat for fuel, and you want to kind of just throw in just a touch of glucose to stabilize your blood sugar. That's all fine, but do not do that right before the start,
But if you're
because
if
that'll just
you're
sabotage.
if you're racing for time on race day, do you, I mean, move out of the heart rate zone?
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. On your race day, yeah, you're going to move out because
So
you've built this big aerobic
I
engine, but
see. So you can
not
see
too
what it can
much,
do.
depending on the event. One magic
Gotcha.
trick that will keep you in the right zone. So I exclusively breathe through my nose unless you're like sprinting. So breathing through your nose guarantees that you're in the right zone because you really like. And if you watched like the Olympic marathons, one of the commentators even said this during the women's marathon. I'd never seen anyone observe this. So the two ladies, I think they're both from Kenya, broke away from the Molly, the U.S. lady, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, their mouths are closed."
Sure.
yeah,
And this is like mile 20, and they're like tightening the screws in 80-degree heat.
Wow.
And if you
Jeez.
watched Kipchoge the following week, who just blew the field away, his face is relaxed, his mouth is closed, and he's running like 4 minutes and 30 seconds a mile. And you're
Crazy.
like, well, crazy. And you're like, wait a
Wow.
minute. But that's the physiology of it, right? They're breathing through their nose. Their CO2 is actually elevated enough to really, it's a whole process, but they're just doing that unconsciously because they're just amazing athletes. No one really has told them that. They're just innately doing that. And then the
So,
one who gets dropped is, the one who's like
right.
Yeah.
dropping off they're just like hanging on for dear life. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
So no,
Interrupted you.
I've transitioned to this. I
I
was a huge mouth breather. So I wanted to ask Mike if you're still a mouth breather or
No, I'm predominantly a nose breather in everyday stuff besides walking and running. And as soon as I read that, so I have a heart rate monitor on my watch,
Mhm.
and it was really annoying when I figured out the zone I want to run in to constantly look up at it. And once I read in your book, just breathe through your nose, it like fixed everything. Like I never have to look at my watch. Every time I peek down, I'm always like in a decent zone. And it was weird for like a week, and then honestly now it's just like second nature. Like I
It's
don't even
second
think about
nature.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice. Now you don't need to like be so technology. You're so, anything in athletics becomes feeling based.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure like any of those top level people, they don't need all that stuff anymore. They just kind of know inherently where they are. But that takes a lot of discipline and training. And I mean, we all like Mike and Bob and myself, I've done about everything wrong probably a million
sure.
times.
Yep.
and then you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then you try it, self experiment. Oh, heck yeah. That now it all is clear.
So
And then
I
something
mean, I
else
don't know
gets
what
thrown
your
in there.
thoughts are about this, but a huge mouth breather. So I started doing the tape at night where I tape my mouth
Yes, I do that too.
and
It's
oh, I
sleep
sleep
like a
better.
baby.
Oh,
Yes.
it's just fantastic. And my teeth are whiter. You notice?
Like all of our sleep apnea patients now who can't get CPAPs because the machines are being recalled. Like
Oh,
if
sure.
people with sleep apnea, it's a highly, I mean, if you have severe sleep apnea, it's not going to make it go away. But a lot of milder varieties of sleep apnea, just tape the mouth, breathe through the nose, and it changes the flow dynamics in the airway and the tongue
Yep.
position. So you can correct a lot of sleep apnea just by taping the mouth. Not if you're listening to this, not like duct tape in an aggressive way. I just
Right.
get
No.
1 inch paper tape,
Yep.
one little strip right on the lips. So
Yep.
it's not going to suffer.
Yeah, it breaks through if you
Yeah, if
you want to,
something
you could do it.
happened. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's neat to hear.
Yeah, it's really
on
good
you.
advice.
Do you maybe want to talk about how when you first start heart rate training, you actually decrease your pace of running, and then over
tremendously.
time you become efficient? Because I'm like probably 2.5, 3 months into it, and I'm still working on building up that speed again.
Yeah, it's called aerobic speed, and that's your fitness. So say you're 40 years old and you say, okay, my heart rate where I'm transitioning, you can't breathe through my nose anymore, is a 140 heart rate. And right now you go out to the park and your monitor beeps at a 12-minute mile. All right, so you're type A and you wants to, screw this heart rate monitor, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Throw it away. This grandma's passing me, but you hang in
Right.
there, adjust your stride, breathe through your nose, just chill, walk a bit if there's a hill. But then the next month you're running an 11-minute a mile at a heart rate of 140. Right. Then the next month you're at a 10-minute a mile at a heart rate of 140. Keep going. Then you're at an 8-minute a mile at a heart rate of 140. This was my trajectory. And it was before like the Marine Corps Marathon in 2020 when I didn't do any workouts and I was just goofing around with this. And like, a couple weeks before the Marine Corps Marathon, I'm running around this park in Denver, pretty close to a 6-minute a mile. And I was 30 years old-ish at the time. And I'm running at a
Wonderful.
heart rate of 150 at altitude, and that was
Wow.
like, okay, this is different. And started that marathon. It was just the easiest feeling I've ever had. But, but that took patience and time. And I never, unless I had understood that method, I never would have had the patience. It was a whole system I'd never really built because when you're just running like college track, an easy day is keeping up with your teammates, right? There's no such
Right.
thing as easy to like a high school kid or a college kid running on the team. Like they don't, it's like a Marine telling a Marine to go easy. It's like easy to a Marine is not dead yet. So
Right. Yeah.
those people need the heart rate monitor because they're type
Sure.
A. The people that are more intuitive, they don't need, just tell them to have a conversation with their friend. They don't need the technology. They're doing it anyway. So you have to,
Gotcha.
as a coach, are they a horse or a mule?
Yeah, I had to really force myself because I'm a type A, and it was
you're a horse.
it was
You're on your break.
very frustrating, and it's better now. It's funny because when I run certain laps around here, there's a lot of colleges, and you'll just see the college kids like flying by me. I just keep telling myself, I'm like, I'll get
That's all cool.
faster. I'll get faster, and
Do
then I
sprints
just
at the end of your run. It's
yeah, you just kind of gotta suck it up for a
Mike,
while.
I see you have a question about the MAF method.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
So do you just want to explain like the Maffetone method a little bit?
Yeah, and
kind of
that's
about?
my kind of what we did. Yeah, so the Maffetone method, and it's just a baseline. It's not something meant to be like super rigid. It's just a start point to get you from, most people run too hard, right? So it's that 180 minus your age. And if you're recovering from an illness, then you want to even dial it down a little more. Maybe if you've kind of in this fat adapted world where, you can breathe through your nose at a little higher heart rate, you could dial it up a little bit. But it's kind of a guide.
Yeah.
If you're suffering from chronic injuries, fatigue, it's going to slow you down, and that helps you recover. Because most of us, running is recovery for us. We're not professional athletes, right? So for us, running is our recovery. I mean, is that true for you guys? You have day jobs and
Oh yeah.
stress.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, absolutely.
like for me, it's like, if running is not to recover, then the rest of the day doesn't work because the rest of the day is constant stress.
Speaking of which, do you want to mention, maybe talk about sleep and recovery and heat?
And how that can affect the heart rate. Because I've
Yeah,
known
yeah.
your book, you talk about all this stuff, kind of different things, and I've experienced it, but you just want to kind of elaborate on different things
Yeah, so
affect
if
your
it's
heart.
really hot, your heart rate's going to go higher just to cool you off. So if it's really hot and you're comfortable running and your heart rate's a little higher, that's cool. That's fine because your heart rate's you're like a radiator basically. You're just trying to
Hmm.
cool yourself off. So, but again, don't kid yourself, right? How do you feel the next day? Because a lot of times, oh, it's just warm. Let me forget the heart rate. But just be wise with what your self-assessment is. And are you progressing, right? Like, are you progressing or are you going backwards? Sleep is so important because sleep is how, we get better stress plus rest, right? Without
Sure.
recovery, there's no
I like that.
training equals stress plus rest, right? Stress the body, don't know recover, stress the body, you break. But those deep stages of sleep, stage 3 to 4, is where growth hormone, testosterone, recovery is hormonal. It's not foam rolling your body, right? It's
Mm,
it's it's recovery, right? So your body sends signals to recover and grow, right? Like if we lift, we want to get better, but that's
right.
why you don't do legs every day, right? So you need to recover. But stage 3 to 4 sleep, so if you have sleep apnea, or you're taking a pill called Ambien, which, or any of those Lunestas, any of those pills that
Yes.
are the sleep aids, they interfere with your sleep architecture. So you think you're sleeping, but you're actually not sleeping, and you don't get into that
Uh,
deep
You're
recovery.
skipping the deep sleep. Do any of the sleep
Yes,
meds help with any of the sleep medications? Do you go into deep sleep, or
I
is it?
melatonin is safe, but really just designing
Oh,
your, we call it like your sleep architecture, so you're light in the day, right? So you got to kind of get yourself on a circadian rhythm if you
sure.
can. Night shift work is a mess. I've done a lot of night shift
Right.
work in my life. It's hard to, night shift work is really difficult. Trying to maintain normal sleep cycles because your body's just constantly, you know, off of these rhythms. But yeah, it's just turn the screen off at night, not too much. Alcohol will wreck your sleep late
Sure.
into the evening. You think you're asleep, but again, it's like Ambien. You don't get into the deep sleep. Um, but all those benzodiazepines, Valiums, diazepams,
Yeah.
Ambiens, they affect how you sleep. So, but they're easy to get from your doctors. But I would, buyer beware. Melatonin is fine. So we're trying to kind of increase melatonin later in the day. But the big screen that the teenagers on,
Right.
at 1 in the morning, they're just their eyes are sensing it's daylight.
Do you sticking with sleep here? Do you increase your sleep after the bigger runs? Will you
I
add an hour
try
or
to.
two?
You can't really add it. I've prioritized sleep a little more in my life now. Maybe I'm a little boring now. I get up early to run, like 5 in the morning, but by 10, I'm usually lights out.
Sure.
And I wake up naturally. Like, I don't think I've needed an alarm to wake up in several years.
So you're getting the right amount.
Yeah, I kind of wake up, and roll out of bed, get coffee. But, I really don't think an alarm has woken me up in a long time. And that's kind of good. Try to cut back on the alcohol
Yep.
at late at night. It's been COVID stress, so my wine consumption is dialed up a bit. So try to dial that down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we're all, yeah,
people thinks it
try not to
relaxes
eat.
you and helps you sleep, but you don't. Right. You said, as you
Yes,
said.
cut off the wine at dinner.
Right.
Don't keep
Yeah.
drinking it. Have a glass at dinner, enjoy it, but not 3 glasses after 9 at night or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, we probably have time for one more question. I know that there.
No, this has been fun, and then if we have others, we can do a follow up.
Yeah,
We've covered
absolutely.
some. It's been fun chatting with you
Yeah.
guys. We've covered some.
Likewise.
Want to
Going in.
maybe talk a little bit about how most runners train most of their time in a slower heart rate and then a little bit of time at a faster one?
Yeah, that goes historically to elite athletes in every endurance sport. Certainly people that aren't exercising to perform should probably even do more easy running because that's fitness and that helps you prevent cardiovascular disease. But Seiler, um, lives in Norway now, but the 80/20. Yeah, so that 80/20 principle exists whether you're doing crew, whether you're doing cross-country skiing, whether you're doing cycling or distance running, where like 80% of the training is like ridiculously easy. The Kenyan shuffle, like their easy days are like ridiculously easy, but on the
Ah,
days they light it up, they go fast. But
sure.
still, it's not 50/50. It's like, a little bit of speed and intensity stimulus, but a lot of recovery. And the more you do, the higher intensity that 20% is, the more easy that 80% is. And
Yep.
this is the guy I heard that from, and I would probably take his advice to be pretty wise. His name was Frank Shorter.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Frank, yeah, so
Mike
he
probably
had
doesn't
a
know who he is.
almost
I
20
don't.
year, he had 2 gold medals. We'll give him the
Yeah,
gold in Munich, um, because the guy who won the gold was juiced. Um, but
sure.
that's why Shorter went on to be. He's a lawyer. He became a lawyer and was the first lawyer for WADA, the anti-doping agency, to try to take some of these people down. But he just gave a talk. I was at a University of Virginia running medicine conference. A lot of PTs go there, and he was like the guy they brought in just to talk about his life in running, in his 20-year career. And he said this. He said the harder, and he was self-coached. But he's smart. He's a lawyer, even though I'm a doctor. The lawyers, some of them are smart, even though we try to stay away from them.
We don't think so.
Doctors. But he said this, which was like, you talk about like his training group in Boulder. He said like these people would kind of show up and want to run with them, and they go out in the easy days, and it's like Rob DeCastella, Shorter, all these like world-class runners, and they would oh gosh, I'm running with Frank, I must be pretty hot stuff. Frank, can I run with you tomorrow? And yeah, come out to Potts Field, which is the track.
Sure.
That would be the days running hard, and they wouldn't make it a backstretch. But he said this, the more hard the intensity was on the intense days, the easier the easy days needed to be to recover.
Gotcha.
Right? Doing all that aerobic stuff helped him recover and probably optimize that hard day. Like he had to keep this big aerobic base intact while you were doing the intervals. Like the intervals sharpened you, but you couldn't like ignore like that base. So like it's,
Yeah.
if you're just kind of off season, you could probably go out every day moderate, but the more you hit it, right, high intensity, the more you need to do the recovery. Like the Kenyan shuffle, they call it, right? Like you watch Kenyans on their easy days and they're like shuffling. They call it, like, you could probably find
Ah,
YouTube videos, Kenyan shuffle, because they're just like springing and they're just going
sure.
like, but they're doing like a ton of that stuff.
Makes complete sense.
But like, you
So,
better not go near them on the days. You see
yeah.
those guys run hard and you're like, oh my God, like at 8,000 feet, they're doing 420-mile repeats and you're at
Ah,
8,000 feet on a dirt track.
nuts.
Nuts. But they
Yeah.
do their recovery is like ridiculous easy
Sure.
recovery. And that's
Well,
just like Kipchoge. That's, the guy's amazing, right? He's almost 40 years old and he's blowing up. That's how he trains, and that's why he's still in the sport.
well,
You know,
thank you so much for this information. It's been
my
so
pleasure.
helpful. Really, it's changing Mike and my way of thinking about a lot of things in running and even walking. So, hope we can do this again. And why don't we mention your book one more time?
I appreciate you guys mentioning the book. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
5-year project. Don't
So,
write a book unless you want to stress
yeah,
yourself out.
run
Yeah,
for your life.
lose sleep.
How to run, walk, and move without pain or injury and
It's
achieve a sense of well-being and joy.
it's very well written and very thorough and very detailed.
Yeah, you'll find
I
a
will
lot of
say.
details we didn't have today.
And it's not just about running; it's about foot mechanics, stretching, different health eating stuff.
And maybe 80% non-running, 20% is running. The
Yep.
rest of it's just health.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it's for all of you. So, do you want to mention your website again?
Yeah, so I mean, my store is a great place, tworiverstreads.com. And if you go to drmarksdesk.com, you can see a lot of things we're doing here in my community. And
Excellent.
that takes you to, including races. We host races out here. It's a fun community. That's
And
kind of why
It
I'm
is.
involved with it now, is just getting people out there and, sharing the joy.
Yep.
And you can order stuff from there online and you ship it, because I ordered some socks and stuff from you. So just so everyone's aware, you don't actually have to go to the store in person. And
Yeah,
you give
we have
me
it on the
handwritten
website.
notes from your store person.
Oh, how
thank you.
cool.
Yeah, it's like old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of neat.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know you have to go to dinner, Mark. So thanks very much for
No,
joining us.
thank you guys. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.